Did you hear that? The 13th chime. It shouldn't exist, but we all know it's there, hiding behind the face of that demon clock. Once more it is time for the veil of shadows to be lifted. Once more it is time for the Hallow-Holics Anonymous podcast.
And now, an excerpt from The Cat Came Back. Old Mr. Johnson had problems of his own. He had a little cat that just wouldn't leave his home. He tried and he tried to give the cat away. He gave it to a little man going far, far away. But the cat came back the very next day. Yes, the cat came back. They thought he was a goner, but the cat came back. He just wouldn't stay away. Hey, Jazlaan.
Yeah?
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Me. Hi, guys. I'm Madeline, and this is...
Jazlaan. You might know me from last episode's opening and closing phone calls.
Yes, indeed. You might remember him from them.
Maybe. Unless you're like me and don't ever listen to the podcasts.
Well, anyway.
Joking, I've heard them all. Wasn't your mom fabulous? I loved her. I hope she comes back.
Yes, she's incredible. Hopefully she will come back. Perhaps the very next day. Who knows?
Is she also a cat?
She hates cats, actually, but that's neither here nor there. Julianne and Chris will eventually be back. It's just they're not... Actually, I didn't ask them this week because I wanted to do an episode with you.
Aw.
And, you called me at work and were like, we need to do an episode now.
Well, Madeline and I have tried to record our podcast 3 times now.
Yeah.
And we just can't figure out a topic that we're both knowledgeable in. And she's been trying to include me, and I've been trying to, be a good podcast host because this is the first time I've ever done one. But we just can't find a topic. But we finally found one that we both love, we're both passionate about, and we both have lots of info about. So I think this is going to be a good episode finally.
Let's get started. Jazlaan, what's the first movie?
First movie we're going to talk about is one that everybody knows, everybody saw. I'm 25 years old, so this movie came out when we were, I think, in 7th or 8th grade.
Yeah, middle school.
Yeah, this is an old one and a good one. This one made $250 million. It stars Naomi Watts, and it's called The Ring. I have an and here on my note because I actually meant up to look who played Samara. It's an actress that we actually should know. Davy Chase was actually the voice of Lilo in Lilo and Stitch.
Oh, really?
Yes, and Chihiro in Spirited Away.
Oh, wow. I did not realize that. Oh, my God. Now I'm going to look at Spirited Away in a whole different light.
Yeah, so we knew this. So this movie was amazing, and you're going to notice in this podcast that we go from amazing remakes just to worse and worse and worse as the list goes on. And this one was great. I mean, this one was amazing.
You're like, I'll do the reviews for the good movie.
I realized that after I told you the list. Basically, you'll also see that we're going to go from horrible Asian versions to really good Asian versions. So it's really funny that, because I hated the Japanese version of The Ring. But let me tell you, this story, the story of The Ring is based off of the Bancho Sarayashiki story, which is the dish mansion of Bancho. Bancho is an area near Tokyo, and there was a mansion owned by a samurai who had Delft plates. Those are the plates that are blue and white. So he had a beautiful servant that he was in love with named Okiku, and she didn't want to be with him, of course. So, because that's how it is in every story.
Especially in Japan.
In every story, Madeline. So he has 10 plates, and he hides one of them, and he pretends that she lost it. And basically that's a crime that'll end with her dying. So he says, don't worry, I'll excuse you if you become my lover. And she refuses. So he throws her down a well, and that's how she dies. But then her ghost every night goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and counts all the way up to 9, and then lets out a horrible shriek. So that's where I'm guessing the number 7 days comes from and all that stuff. But to stop her from haunting him, he has an exorcist come in, and he waits until she gets to 9, and then he shouts 10 down the well. And so she's happy that somebody finally found that lost plate.
Yeah. There seems to be a consistent kind of obsession with numbers in Japanese horror stories.
I guess it just comes from the kanji having all those different readings, like 4 meaning death, and 9 is one. that means didn't it mean suffering?
I think so, yeah.
There was a couple we talked about in one of our failed podcasts. So there was a lot of differences between the original Ring and the American version.
Yes, I have seen the original, so I know what you're talking about.
Cool. Well, for those who haven't seen it, I'm trying not to spoil too much here. But basically, there's a cursed videotape if you watch it. Everybody's seen this. I know if you haven't seen it, you need to go watch it because it's 2014. And if you haven't seen it, you've
It's,
missed
I'd
every
say
pop
it's,
culture
yeah.
reference to it in every movie ever.
I think at this point it's kind of a part of the essential list of horror films for.
Yeah, it was really good. Like I said, it made $250 million. That's not anywhere compared to what any of these other movies have made. But Samara is the cursed videotape girl in the American version, and she's adopted, and she causes her mother to go crazy, and they're institutionalized. And when they get out, the mother suffocates her and throws her down a well. But she didn't actually die. She didn't suffocate. Said it took her 7 days to die in the world in the well. In the Japanese version, Sadako is actually the daughter of a great psychic, and the psychic was accused of being fake, and so she killed herself because whatever. Sadako, the daughter, she was actually even more powerful than her mom, and her father killed her, I can't remember why, and threw her into the well. So there's a little bit of difference there. Other differences is if you've seen the Japanese version, you know that the way the people die is the same, but their faces don't look scary at all. They're just literally cross-eyed.
One point I would like to make, you said you like the remake, but you don't like the original, and how the way I felt about it is I actually did see the remake before I saw the original, like most of us probably have. And I felt that both of them felt almost like incomplete stories, but when I watched them both individually, I felt like I had gathered more clues to fully understand the story for both sides.
I walked away from the American version totally satisfied.
Well, no, it's not that. It's just there were certain little clues, hints, tips. I
Sure.
felt like there were certain little details that I didn't quite grasp upon the first viewing of the original, of not the original, of the remake of the Ring. It was a movie that I had to see more than once to gather the full story, and I felt like after I had watched the original as well, coupled with that, I fully understood the whole story arc.
How did you feel about Naomi Watts' character being the strong, independent woman that she was in the American version compared to the Japanese version where she needed her husband to do everything?
Well, I really feel that that is a consistent sort of style in a lot of Japanese movies. The woman is usually a more submissive feminine character. It made sense to me, since Naomi Watts was an American character in the remake, that she did become a more dominant, strong, individual woman. And I was perfectly fine with that. I was perfectly fine with both versions, and I can appreciate them as separate entities. Because the remake was good. It was a good remake that actually brought something to the table, and that's what I feel a really good remake needs, whether it's a remake of an Asian movie or any other movie. I mean, it's better that a remake isn't a shot-by-shot copy, but something that stands alone as its own story without having to be held up by the original.
I think they did a good job of adapting it for the American audience. Like if you by watching it, you wouldn't know that it was a Japanese movie at all, I think.
Oh, definitely, yeah, I completely agree there. Except for the long hair thing, but at the time, it wouldn't have been something we would
Yeah,
have
that was an
recognized.
original idea. Yeah,
Yeah, at
that was
that
an
time
original
it was
idea.
original. Yes.
We've
Not so
had
much
like
now, but
yeah, we've had 10 years to appreciate the long-haired Asian
yeah.
ghosts, so we're over it now,
Yeah.
but
At the time it was a really cool aspect. It was creepy, and now it's been thoroughly run into the ground.
yeah.
Thank you, Hollywood.
Well, a really cool way that they changed part of the story to match the to fit into American culture is she found out the island that they were from because that lighthouse that was in the video.
Mhm.
In the Japanese version, the way they were able to find the island is because there was a written phrase in the movie or in the video, the cursed video,
Yeah.
and it was written in a dialect that was from that island, and that's how they found out it was from that island. So it was cool how they kind of changed that one little part so that it would be, because we don't have
Yeah.
dialects, of course.
The more I think about it, the more I realize that a lot of modern horror films, a lot, even the ones that aren't remakes of Asian movies,
Mm.
took so many aspects of this movie. The whole idea with that ring being drawn over and over again, those charcoal, like burnt looking drawings, I feel like I've
Ah,
seen that in a lot of movies. Like, you remember Mama?
I
Those
didn't see
drawings in.
Mama, but yes, I
Okay.
do remember
The,
the trailer.
yeah, the drawings in Mama just reminded me of The Ring. But it's a good movie. It's just
Ah.
those drawings really reminded me of The Ring. Of course, the whole investigative thing, that's not a new concept, but I think the way The Ring did it, it felt like it was a new concept at the time. It felt fresh.
Yeah, dude, the ring scared me so much when they opened up the closet and the girl was in there dead. Her face was horrifying.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it was just that quick shot, that fast shot.
Right. I don't even think it was a second long.
Yeah.
A millisecond.
Yeah. The sequel they did of The Ring really, really pissed me off, especially
Ah,
because when you saw those people's faces, it just stayed on them. It was
yeah,
like, well,
a
that
lot longer.
completely destroys how scary it was
Yeah.
in the original.
The only good thing to come out of the sequel was when she was climbing up the well, how her body would flip over itself. That was scary.
Yeah.
But everything else in that movie was horrible, horrible, horrible.
Just absolutely just bad.
Yeah. I don't even want to talk about the sequel other than how cool it was of her coming up the well.
And is there anything else that you, any other interesting facts, anything else you want to say about The Ring?
No, other than that, it was amazing.
When that movie came out, everybody was saying 7 days over and over again to each other. I remember that.
Yes.
And I would just be like, what is everybody talking about? Because I was really late to the game and finally going to see it in theaters.
Really?
Yeah, I saw it like right before it was out of theaters, basically.
Ah, you waited till it was at the $1.50.
No, not that at that point yet, but
See, when you see it cheaper like that, it's actually 21 days, not 7 days. Your $1 is not even worth her 7-day curse. It's
she's
the
like
21-day curse.
7. She's not even
18
finished.
days. Yeah, right. Yeah, whatever, you cheap bastard.
And then she kind of just hobbles out back into the television stuff.
Yeah. The Ring did produce one of the best scenes from Scary Movie, though.
Oh yeah.
Did you see that one?
Yeah, I do remember that.
I love when I can't remember the character's name, but she gets killed and she's in the casket and the mom says she looks so peaceful, and it cuts to her and she's just that was the best Scary Movie scene, hands down.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, The Ring, for that.
After me and my mom had gone to see the movie, Dad wasn't home at the time, and Mom was like, "Well, I can't sleep alone tonight," so I just had to sleep with her. But there's a television set in that room, and I think we were both sitting up the whole night, just going, looking over at the television set every couple of minutes, afraid that it would turn itself on.
That's hilarious.
I guess that's all I have to say about The Ring. You got any funny stories about The Ring?
No, but my dad was watching The Ring one time at home alone, and there's apparently a ghost in our house. And while he was watching, he said a shadow moved across the wall, and he was like, "Hey, Mr. Ghost, don't come in here." And the ghost was like, "Okay," and walked back out. Yeah.
That's a very pleasant ghost.
Apparently, he's a nice guy.
He's no Samara.
I've never seen it, but both my sister, my stepsister, my stepbrother, and my stepmom and my dad have all seen him. So I'm just apparently oblivious.
I can picture a very amusing sitcom episodes focused on this ghost trying to get your attention.
Right.
And just giving up.
Yeah. All right. So what's our next video?
Our next movie is a movie I remember in particular after you had seen it, how in love you were with it. You talked about it nonstop.
The Grudge. This one made $190 million, and it was starring Sarah Michelle Gellar.
And that was when she was still hot from the Buffy popularity. So
and
people
Scooby-Doo,
still remembered who she
I
was.
People still know her now.
From Buffy reruns.
I think... I think she had just got done doing Scooby-Doo. She did another movie right after this one that was a horror movie. I can't remember what it was called. The Return, that's what it's called.
Ah.
I think she had a horror movie year. 2004, okay, yeah. She did a lot of horror movies in that 2-year span.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Sarah Michelle Gellar, but I think there's just something about blonde actresses I've never been fond of. However, I really admire the fact that she plays a lot of strong female leads, and that's pretty cool.
I liked her as Daphne in Scooby-Doo. I liked her as Buffy. I liked her in this.
Well, let's just talk about this, The Grudge.
The inspiration for this story actually came from the director, his personal fears as a child. And there was a Japanese dance group that would paint their naked bodies and perform. So he found it frightening and decided to...
Why would he find that frightening?
He wasn't a very artistic child, apparently. So he found it very scary. And that's why he decided to paint his ghosts white. He also mentioned that while he was filming some of his earlier movies, he noticed that the number of domestic abuse cases was increasing, and that's why he got the idea for the origin of this movie. For those of you who haven't seen it because you thought it was going to be shitty, The trailer actually scared me to the point of having nightmares, so I was very excited to see this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it's about a girl, about a cursed house who, because the house is now a person, a cursed house who everyone that goes into it dies because of a backstory that involves domestic abuse. So really good movie. Definitely check it out. I liked the Japanese version and the American version very much. I think one of the only DVDs I bought the director's cut and all that stuff. Listened to the cast commentary about 100 billion times. Great movie. The only real did you see the Japanese version?
No.
The only real difference is the American Grudge chick looks a lot scarier. That's going to be a common occurrence in our movies here. But Karen, the Sarah Michelle Gellar, and Yoko, if you remember, she died first. Her jaw got ripped off in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
They're the same character in the Japanese version. So other than that, there was really no difference. I loved this movie. I thought it was great.
I couldn't get into it at the time I watched it because I only watched it one time.
Mhm.
I didn't think it was a bad movie, but it didn't scare me at all.
Really?
There was one point I almost jumped, but not really, and it was during that bit with the security camera.
Ah.
I might have been watching it with you, and you might have just been talking about how awesome it was the whole time, so it might have been just because I couldn't pay attention to it.
Yeah, I can see that happening. Yeah, that scene comes from Katie. The movie, if anyone hasn't seen it, the movie's divided into sections depending on which character they're focusing on, and it's not in any linear order. It's in just random. That character was Katie Strickland's character, and she was my favorite. She was the office lady. And just everything about her scene was amazing, and the actress was really proud of her scene because she said that her theater teacher, I believe, had told her if you can express emotions without having any lines. She only has like maybe 10 lines in her entire scene, and you can express those emotions of fear. You're doing a good job, and she did a really good job. Clea Duvall was in this. Do you remember Clea Duvall? She's not a blonde, so you should remember her. She was in But I'm a Cheerleader.
The actress from The Faculty?
Yeah, she was also in American Horror Story, I believe, the second season for a few episodes. After The Grudge came out, everyone was making the sound. Do you remember?
Yeah, I think I found an online thing where they could call people and do that, and I
Oh
tried it
yeah.
several times.
Yes, it was I think it was the official website.
Yeah.
You could put in anybody's numbers and it would call.
Yeah, I tried to get it to call you all day once.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it would show up as an unknown number, so I don't think I would answer it, but a lot of people wouldn't answer it. This did produce 2 sequels, and it also has about 6 Japanese versions.
Gosh.
And each sequel got progressively worse. The second one was pretty good. It wasn't my favorite, but it was pretty good. But the third one was completely just awful. I know you haven't even seen it because how bad it was. Um, there's a lot of Japanese versions. I think I've seen 3 or 4 of them. There's a few on Netflix. I think they're called Black and White.
Yeah, I know me and you tend to really disagree on movies, like as far as like if you really like it, sometimes I won't, but I know when you tell me a movie is bad, then it must be really bad.
Yeah, if I tell you a movie's good, you assume that it's bad. But if I tell you a movie is bad, you know that it's bad.
Because you're very optimistic about movies.
Yeah. And apparently on March 14th of this year, they announced that they're rebooting the movie.
Ah.
I know you're going to say that, but it's actually just a reboot in name only. They said that it's not going to follow any of the same characters, including the ghosts.
Then how is it a reboot if it has
It's
nothing
not.
to
It is
do
a
at all?
reboot in name.
It's like, yeah, we're gonna take the name Grudge and see if we can profit off of that. But trust
Yeah.
us, this has nothing to do with the Grudge.
Yeah, and it's Sam Raimi again, so
Oh well, if it's Sam Raimi,
it might be good, but I don't know why they're keeping the same title.
yeah, well, who knows?
Yeah. So.
Maybe Bruce Campbell will make an appearance.
Also, if you haven't seen this movie and you're a fan of
Bill Pullman.
Bill Pullman, sorry, and if you haven't seen this movie yet and you are a fan of Bill Pullman, you're gonna enjoy the first 10 minutes of the film where he has a nice cameo.
Whatever happened to him?
He had a good career as a young guy, though.
Yeah, but yeah, I really like his stuff. He's a very charming on-screen personality.
Yeah, I liked him a lot in Casper.
Oh, I loved him in that, but I really liked him in While You Were Sleeping.
Well, oh yeah, I love that movie too.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
Sandra Bullock. Oh yeah, I'm looking at his IMDb right now.
His IBM. You're looking at his stock portfolio.
Sorry, I'm looking at his IMDb right now.
I just love Bill Pullman's investment choices.
I liked him in Independence Day, of course. Yeah, he's been in a lot of stuff. I don't know about recently.
Well, no, I mean he had a pretty good career. I guess he just doesn't do much anymore. You know, he's older, so.
No, he's had a steady career. I'm looking at nothing I've seen, but he's had
I
a.
said he's not.
Oh, he was in Law and Order at one point. That's cool. Everybody's been in Law and
Yeah,
Order.
I was gonna say that. It's like it's like how everyone in England has been in Doctor Who at some point. For us, it's Law and Order.
Right. So, anything else you want to say about this movie?
I like the camera filters they used. It was very
It was
sharp.
very nicely made.
Good lighting, the color choices, the consistent blue-gray palette was
Yeah.
helped to aid to the atmosphere, the creepy atmosphere of the film, I think.
I can't remember how you feel about time. So, did you like that it was non-linear?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm
Okay.
fine with non-linear story structures.
Because they kept that structure in the second movie,
Yeah.
and then for the third one, since it was straight to DVD, they just made it linear, and it really just ruined it.
Yeah. Well, as long as there's a solid story, as
Mhm.
long as the writing is good, I don't care what order a movie is in, but it has to be a good script. Period.
It reminds me a lot of the Saw series. Have you seen all of them? Any of them?
Oh, I stopped at the first one.
Really?
I
I've only
liked the
seen-
first one, but
Yeah.
I didn't see any point in seeing sequels because I just had a feeling they would be progressively worse and worse.
I don't know about that. I've only seen up to the second one, but I was reading about it because something came up on one of the Wikipedia articles that was about one of the Saw characters. I can't remember her name now.
Hmm.
Oh, she was in the Grudge 3. What was her name? Amanda something. Shawnee Smith. She played Amanda. She was the one in the first one that had the jaw machine on.
Yeah,
Do you remember vaguely?
yeah, I
So
remember her.
she ended up being, I'm not going to spoil the Saw series, but a very important character in that series.
Oh no, I know exactly what happened to her. So.
Okay. Well, in the Japanese version of all these Grudge movies, certain characters that are in part one will show up again in three or four. There's a whole, like, the whole movies are connected with these characters, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Something that they didn't do too much in the American version. They just had Sarah Michelle Gellar in the second one for about 10 minutes,
Yeah.
and then a character from the second one and the third one for about 10 minutes.
Mhm.
But I thought that was really cool, and I love the series.
Well, I'm just glad that there's a movie I know I can probably buy a poster or some kind of merchandise for, and you'll probably like that.
Oh yeah, I actually would love would love that. You're like, a poster for the Grudge 3. He'd love this. Adam, that's my least favorite one.
I know you so well.
Yeah,
Okay, now that we've got the two big ones out of the way,
the two good ones.
yeah, pretty much. Now, of all the movies we've watched, the one that made me the absolute angriest, the one that really ticked me off, is the next movie we're about to talk about.
This movie stars who?
Jessica Alba.
Yes, love her.
It's called The Eye.
Yes.
And let me just point out that now this is a movie where I had seen the original and I loved it, and
Yeah, unlike the
Jazlaan
first
watched it with
movie,
me.
We saw this one in we saw the Asian version first.
Yeah,
and
before
loved
before anyone was even talking about
doing
them
a remake. Yeah, we saw that. We were so excited when we heard they were
Yes.
doing this.
because it was one of the scariest movies I had ever seen up to that point.
There was one scene that we're watching, and I literally
Oh my
squeezed
God.
Madeline's arm. Yeah, and I was just going, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
It was such an
This
incredible
scared-
experience watching the original The Eye.
Yeah.
And
And this is a movie that you and I watched in your room with all the lights off,
Mhm.
late at night. And this is something we don't do because I'm a huge scaredy cat.
Yeah.
When we watch stuff, we have to watch it with the lights on, and I'm pretty ridiculous. But
Yeah,
this
when
movie,
you start to get scared, I can tell because then you start talking nervously and really talking a lot when we're trying to watch a movie.
but not with this movie. Did I talk a lot during this one?
No, this one shocked you into being quiet.
Yeah, this movie was great. I should, and I was.
Wait,
quiet
but we're
during-
talking about the original first.
Oh, yeah, we're talking about the original first because it was so amazing. We have to set the scene
Yes.
how bad the remake was.
It was so beautiful, and yet you could tell there was a low budget there, but it was pulled off wonderfully, and it was a very long movie. Very long movie, but it was still great.
But no, it was only 98 minutes, and its budget was about four and a half million, and it made the original, the Asian version, made 15 million in Hong Kong. So I don't know about worldwide, but that's pretty good, you know.
Yeah, and this is a Chinese Hong Kong movie, so this isn't Japanese. This was fairly original Gosh, I loved this movie. In fact, I have a DVD of it. I might watch it again.
It also spawned several sequels, the original.
Yeah.
Two sequels that I know of.
Oh, gosh.
I-2 and I-Infinity, I believe.
I believe me and you watched I-2 together, and the point where she kept throwing herself off the building, we started to make jokes because she just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. It was like, how far
Yeah.
are they gonna stretch this?
It also
Oh,
spawned an Indian version, Naina, if you ever want to see that. It's probably not a Bollywood film, Madeline, but
it probably is.
you think there's songs and stuff?
Oh yeah.
Probably. It caused controversy in India because its depiction of the protagonist seeing ghosts after receiving a cornea transplant was similar to existing fears in India surrounding corneal transplants.
Oh, India.
Oh, India. Well,
We love you, India.
I just like how that's worded on the Wikipedia.
That's good. I wonder if that's just Wikipedia bullshit or
Right. It was
that's
feared the
true.
film would discourage people from donating corneas or seeking corneal transplants. I'm so afraid I'm going to start seeing ghosts.
Now let's
Man,
finally. We've been
everyone
avoiding it. We got to talk about the remake.
Okay, well, I will start by saying I love Jessica Alba.
Yes. Oh, yes. Let me set the scene by just saying when we heard about the remake, I was both terrified and a little excited because I thought, well, if it's good, then that means they'll take something that's not fully polished and they'll make it incredible, right? Because that's what happens with an American remake of something. It's usually really good or really bad. I was terrified it would be really bad, but I was really hopeful it'd be really good. And then the fact that you love Jessica Alba so much, in fact, whenever we brought up the fact that we were going to see it, you always had to shove in the fact that you just love Jessica Alba. You were in love with her, the
I
greatest
think
actress
she's
ever.
beautiful. No, not the greatest actress ever. That will hands down forever always be Brittany Murphy. But I do really, really enjoy Jessica Alba. By the way, Jessica Alba's in this.
And we went to see this when it came out in
We did.
theaters at the premiere. First of all, let me say one thing about the original. And I hate to do the comparing the original to the remake thing, but let me just say the original was very powerful in the fact that there wasn't really any music in the original. They didn't play music. It was like silent. There was no violin music, that tense music that usually plays before a jump moment. It was just quiet, and then bam, the scary shit would happen. In the American one, from what I recall, I felt like there was a lot of music and it was overpowering.
I don't really remember the soundtrack at all.
Yeah, and I mean, what few scary parts there were direct copies from the original. They weren't pulled off even as well. But it wasn't all bad. There was one aspect of this remake that I really, really enjoyed. I like how they translated the setting. I like how they took the idea of this rural Chinese village and they transformed it into a rural Mexican village. Because,
oh, that's right, they did, didn't they?
yeah, because there's such interesting mysticism in that culture. I thought it was a perfect translation. I thought that was absolutely brilliant to do that. But that's really the only good thing I can say about this movie. And the ending, oh my gosh, the ending was so upsetting.
Plot of The Eye, for anyone who hasn't seen it, is really amazing. It's a woman who gets corneal transplant. She starts seeing ghosts, and it turns out the corneal came from a girl who could see ghosts who killed herself because all the people in the village hated her. And
Well,
she tried to tell them that, you're all going to die because of something, and no one believed her. And then everybody in the village did die, and they said it was her curse, so
yeah.
she killed herself. It's a great, great plot, and the American version did do the plot justice. They didn't change anything
Yes, they did.
except for the ending.
I would like to add that they're not really ghosts that she sees. They're more like the shadows of death before people die.
Oh, that's what it is. You're right.
Yeah, they see the shadows of death before people die. Of course, the girl cries and cries and cries whenever she sees it because she can't handle the idea that these people are about to die and there's nothing she can do to stop it. Nothing she can do to stop it. And so she becomes ostracized and eventually she commits suicide because she can't handle it anymore. And her corneas go to this girl who's been blind since she was a child, Jessica Alba. And then Jessica Alba starts to see stuff. And she sort of investigates the origin of her corneas to figure it out. And there's this one aspect of the story that I think was in this version and was in the original as well. And it's what I really loved it. It's that she looked at her reflection and then she saw a picture of herself for the first time. And the picture she saw was a face she didn't recognize because the reflection she saw in the mirror every day was the reflection of the girl who had the original girl.
Wasn't that in the Asian version too, the Chinese version too?
Yes.
So
Yes.
see, they adapted it very well, and I guess Now that I'm remembering all the scenes in this movie, the real thing that I hated most was they changed the ending.
Yeah, and it took away from the poignancy of the whole story. That's the thing that bothered me. It took away from the message, from what made it such a tragedy, such a burden to have this gift or curse. The ending in the remake, they when they changed that, it really ruined that message for me.
But I wish we could spoil the eye slightly, but basically the same thing. I don't want to spoil it horrible. Okay, if, I'm going to spoil it because anyone who's seen it, I know you want to talk about this, and I know you want to hear me and Madeline talk about this. So if you haven't seen it, go use the bathroom, go get some tea because I'm going to rip into this movie. So in the original Asian version, there's a bomb on the highway, and it kills everyone, and it
And you see all
blinds.
these people down the street. You see these people partying in the back of a truck. You see this little girl
Mm.
watching this little mouse outside, and you see everyone.
It's entire city block that gets destroyed by I think it
Yes.
was a gas leak maybe.
Yeah. Mhm.
But yeah, and then there's a window that breaks and the glass reblinds Jessica Alba, finally taking away her thing, and she doesn't want to get surgery anymore because she was just happy to have seen for a short time. Not Jessica Alba, but the Chinese version of
Yeah.
Jessica Alba. It was great. It was a wonderful ending. It opened the movie, it closed the movie. Great, great, great. But in the American version, she saves everybody from the bomb, and it's just like
That ruins it.
I get that Americans love happy endings, but this
But
movie
come
didn't
on.
need the happy ending. The
It,
happy ending was that she got to enjoy sight for a short time.
yeah. What was she seeing if she wasn't seeing the shadows of death anymore, huh? Then that wasn't really what she was seeing at all. It was confusing the fact that she was able to save them. I just
One of
remember
the
being
mm,
seeing it, watching it with you in theaters, and being so angry that she saved them.
the funniest scene was when there was a little girl going, "Mommy, mommy, it looks like something's wrong
And she
ahead,"
was just on the phone.
ignoring her daughter, who's like, "I think something's wrong."
And then we
So
just started joking. Honey, I'm on the phone. Why did Daddy leave us?
because I talk too much. So we have a whole joke about that little girl in the car with her abusive mother. I think we would have liked this movie had they not changed the ending so drastically. But then, even though she saves everybody, she still gets re-blinded. Which, what? Why even save all those people and then be re-blinded? That makes no sense. The ending ruined it. And the rest of the movie wasn't amazing, but it was pretty good until that they changed the ending. So we have, The Ring, who was just great, The Grudge, who was pretty okay. We have this movie that was good until the end, and then we have our next movie, which was awful.
What a disappointment.
Well, and I didn't expect it to be this bad because of who was in it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I absolutely love Jennifer Connelly, and she's all grown up and she's just beautiful, and she's not a bad actress. You see, her acting in this movie wasn't bad. She's a good actress, but I saw it in theaters. I think I saw it with you.
We saw it together.
Yeah, this was at the point where the long black hair girls had become. It was starting to get tired, where people were just assuming every Japanese movie had a creepy girl with long black hair.
This came out in 2005. The Ring came out in 2004.
It was starting to become tired, but
I'm
me and
sorry, The Ring
you,
came out in 2002.
yeah, me and you still had faith in these kinds of movies, these remakes of Asian films.
These Asian, yeah.
This was before it
The
got
Grudge came
really,
out in 2004. Okay.
yeah. Dark Water was when I lost my faith entirely in American remakes of Asian movies. That's why I was so negative when we went to see a particular movie we're going to talk about later.
We ended up, oh, I know you had no hope for that movie, but we ended up watching Dark Water in theaters, and we pretty much the entire second half, probably the entire two-thirds end of that movie, we just spent the entire time
Yeah, exactly. Even the final
sighing.
shot was exhausting. When that
Was
car was driving down the
driving
street,
forever.
a 5 minute shot of a car driving down a street. What were they trying to tell us?
Anyone who hasn't seen this movie, that's what you have to look forward to. It's a 5-minute scene of a car driving away
Yeah.
in the end. Sorry to ruin it for you.
The first half of the movie built it up as if it was going to be great, and then the second half was so long, so boring. It was such a bad movie. I hardly remember anything about it except for the dirty water and the shower. I mean,
Filthy, filthy shower.
the filthy shower. It had Jennifer Connelly, and it actually had John
Only
C. Riley as well.
who's that again? John C. Riley.
He did
Hold on.
some films with Will Ferrell.
Oh, he was in that? I don't remember that at all.
Yeah,
I do like
yeah.
him.
Tim Roth was in it.
You don't remember women's actresses' names. Oh, okay, I know him. And I don't remember boys' actors' names.
Together, we can remember the future.
Yes.
And it
pretty
also
much.
has, one of my favorite actors in it as well, Doug Ray Scott, who is absolutely gorgeous.
I vaguely remember him. He was in that movie too?
Yeah, and he was also in Ever After.
Man, they had such a great cast, and yet, ugh.
And Pete Postlethwaite, who is in James and the Giant Peach. He plays
Oh.
he plays the man who gives James the alligator tongue. I mean, it's a movie that had such a great cast. What went wrong?
The Japanese version was pretty good.
Well, yeah,
For
but
what it was.
for me, I can't even say that I had seen the Japanese version and I was expecting more. The budget was 30 million.
30 million, and it made 49 million, so about 19 million more.
Well, yeah, but the actual USA gross was 25 and a half.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
But
I'm
even
taking into
opening
consideration
weekend,
whole
it wasn't
world.
even that big. Opening weekend, it got 436,582.
Well, by this point, we were all pretty much sick of the Asian horror remake
Yeah, but
theme.
I think Dark Water marked the point when it was going downhill. Dark Water was the first one that was really, really bad. I was so disgusted with that movie. Anyway, next movie.
I just really have nothing to say. I just was really
Exactly, there's-
disappointed in Jennifer Connelly. I was disappointed in the script. I was
Yeah.
disappointed in the if as I think about it now, don't you just see like this this orange yellowish hue covering the whole movie the whole time?
Pretty much. I just remember being really exhausted when I was like so awake walking in.
How long was that movie?
Oh, it felt like it was 3 hours, but it was it was a little under 2 hours.
105 minutes. Yeah, it definitely felt way too long.
Yeah, and
Also, now that I'm looking at it, their names were very, they were, let's be as dramatic as possible with these names. I'm gonna name the main character Dahlia, and her daughter Cecilia. I just think that's funny that they chose, because I mean, in the Grudge, you had Karen as the main character. That's a very generic, easy name.
yeah,
I can't remember what the Naomi Watts' name was. Rachel, just a very simple, basic name.
yeah.
Mm.
Let's just. I mean, I've got nothing left to say about this movie. What about you?
I'd say check it out just to see how bad it was and give you another reason to hate. Not another reason, but give you a reason to actually start disliking Jennifer Connelly.
And I really no, I will never dislike Jennifer Connelly. I love her too much.
Uh,
The Labyrinth. I'll always remember her in The Labyrinth. And,
oh, of course,
yeah.
that's one of her best ones.
Yeah, and I also love her in Dark City.
Said another one of her good ones.
Yeah.
I just think remember when Mark Wahlberg did the movie The Happening?
The Happening didn't happen.
See, we all like to forget. So I want to forget that Jennifer Connelly was in this movie. But anytime anybody mentions the word dark and water in the same sentence, I just go, "Oh, Jennifer Connelly."
I would like to also point out that when The Ring 2 came out, it felt like Dark Water.
Oh yeah, with the bathroom scenes where all the water's flying around and
Yeah,
stuff.
that was a sequel that didn't need to happen.
Yeah, I don't even think that sequel was based off of any Japanese stuff. I was trying to look up earlier and I don't remember finding anything that was like, "Oh, these are connected." I think it was a completely original story.
Yeah, I think it was just like, oh, there's more money to be made here.
I am glad there's not a Dark Water 2. It would
Please.
just be a car driving for Oh god, please tell me. Oh no, this is a game. Okay, I was gonna say. I just looked up Dark Water 2, and luckily nothing came up. I bet Jennifer Connelly doesn't even talk about that movie. The Eye did end up making almost $60 million. So it did not as good, but it did better than Dark Water. It didn't do as good as The Grudge of the Ring. And our last movie.
Our final film, which was the end of us watching any remakes of Asian movies together.
This movie made the least out of all of these movies. It only made 42 million, but it has a great cast. Elizabeth Banks, love her. It has Emily Browning, love her, and it has Ariel Kebbel, who I like. I don't love, but I do think she's a beautiful, beautiful girl. This was the remake of A Tale of Two Sisters, which in America was called The Uninvited.
Yep. And where to even begin?
They changed a lot in this remake.
Yeah, they changed a lot.
Well, let me start by saying that this is the highest grossing Korean horror film, and it was the first one to be screened in the American theaters. I'm talking about the Korean version, of course.
Yeah.
This story is inspired by a Chosun dynasty folktale. There's a father with two girls, and the mother dies, and he remarries. And the evil stepmother hates the daughters, of course. That's what all evil stepmothers do.
Of
And
course.
so when the father says, "Hey, honey, could you plan my daughter's wedding?" She says, "Sure." And then, and then she throws a bloody dead rat in the daughter's bed and wakes up one morning and says, "Honey, I just had the worst dream about your daughter." And they run in to find the daughter who's screaming because there's a dead bloody rat between her legs. And the stepmom convinces the father that it must be a miscarriage. So everyone's mad at this daughter. So she runs into the woods to cry. And then the stepmom tells her oldest son to follow her and kill her. And so he follows her and he drowns her in a river. Then the stepmother starts to treat the younger sister horribly. And eventually she just gives up and goes and kills herself and she drowns in a pond. The same pond that the older sister drowns in. This is where the story kind of gets weird. The mayors of the village start to die. So one dies, they elect a new one. He dies, they elect a new one. He dies. So finally, the newest mayor waits all night to see what's going to happen. And the two ghosts of the girls appear. And he goes, "Why are you killing everybody?" And they go, "Because we're so sad that our father hates us. And the stepmom tried to, make us look like sluts and whores." So the mayor sentences the stepmother and son to death. And then the father remarries, and one night he dreams of his daughters, and then the next day he finds out his new wife is pregnant with twin girls. So that's where their story is, inspired by.
Mommy, please don't read me Korean stories before bedtime anymore.
Oh, did I scare you? Yeah, we should mention we're filming this kind of late. Madeline just got off work, and it's my only night off, so she sounds a little delirious, that's why.
I don't sound delirious. I was making a joke.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm making a joke too.
No, I don't mind that the remake changed a lot because a good remake, again, like I said, can stand on its own feet. I just feel like the changes they made weren't necessary. And
no, it changed a lot, and it
oh no, definitely.
and it doesn't. Well, okay, one, this. Oh, me and Madeline are gonna get into it. Here we go. One, this movie has no chance of standing on its own 2 feet because of how shitty it is.
Yeah.
Two, it added so much that wasn't necessary, which you said, but it takes away one of the most greatest moments in the film by getting rid of a character, basically. And it was just unneeded and ridiculous, and I don't know why they would trade the old character for these new characters. It was just stupid.
Yeah. Now let's break it down. The Tale of Two Sisters, the original, the main character is the one who talks, and you don't ever hear the second one talk. You don't ever hear her sister talk.
No, she talks.
Oh, not a lot.
She talks.
Yeah, but she doesn't go
In the original?
off. The original, yeah.
I think, yeah, you're right. I might be getting confused with the remake.
Yeah, and in the remake, this fucking bitch won't shut up. Just and she's just, oh my god, she's
You're right. She
annoying.
It's not that she is annoying because she talks a lot, but she talks, which is weird because if you've seen the original, she's the younger,
quiet, reserved,
shy sister.
Yeah.
And the older ones that does a lot of the talking. Well, they reverse those roles in this movie, and so the main character is a little more shy and a little more withdrawn, but not horribly, but just a little bit. And then the sister is the one who's, I wouldn't say she's a bitch, but she's definitely the wilder sister.
She's an instigator, certainly.
At one point she comes home, you find out towards the end she comes home drunk, and you're just like, oh, this is way different from the original.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say there's maybe one moment that got me in the remake. One moment. And it wasn't really a moment that was needed, but it did get to me.
Mm-hmm.
It was the spine scene.
Which was not in the original, was not needed, at all. But it was disgusting. It wasn't scary, it was disgusting.
Yeah, that was a reaction, at least, from me. Was his character even in the original? I don't think he was.
Oh, it wasn't. He was one of the
actors. Yeah, he was just an added character. It felt like a lot of the drama that was created in this remake was just boring and poorly written. The dialogue wasn't that great. It was like they were struggling to get through each minute to keep the story going, to keep the ball rolling.
Which was sad because in the original it was so great.
Yeah, and gosh, the original is so good.
So the movie starts with one of the sisters. Her name's Anna, and she's in an institution,
Yeah,
and
and that's the true
apparently,
for both of them.
right, right. This starts in the same in both. Her
Yeah.
mother died, and it drove her insane, and that's why she's in the insane asylum.
Yeah.
So she eventually gets told she's cured. She can go home, and she goes home to find her father and her sister and her stepmom home. And then she starts seeing these ghostly images. Things start to happen, strange things. In the Korean version, you find out a great twist that has since been done in a lot of movies, so it won't sound as great as a twist as it actually was now if we say it, but it was
Last
really
week
good at the
came
time.
out,
It was a really good twist. A
it
lot
was
of people were
Sixth
surprised.
Sense level of twist, you know?
It was good. It was really, really good.
Yeah.
And then in the remake, they decided to keep that twist, but yeah, it's kind of been done. So let's change the twist a little bit. So they throw in a new character who is Anna's roommate at the institution at the asylum,
Oh God,
and
I
she
forgot about that.
yeah. So because she had a roommate, all the things that the roommate has said to her are also in her mind. So
Uh-huh.
when she goes home, she starts seeing ghosts of that the roommate was talking about.
Yeah.
But she starts to blame those ghosts on her stepmom. This is a very stepmom is evil movie, and I understand why a lot of people feel that way. I guess I've been really lucky because the five step parents that I've had five step
Yeah.
parents,
Now,
have all been really nice.
in the
So
original, they were trying to give you the impression that the stepmom was just insane. In this one, I got the impression that she was supposed to be like a Jezebel, seductive, evil woman kind of character,
it's
not off her rocker.
Elizabeth Banks plays the stepmom, and in an interview, she said that with every line she said, she was trying to say the line in a way that it could be interpreted two ways because of what the twist is in the end.
Yeah.
But in the original, the reason she was insane was because she was insane. But in the remake, she's not insane because she's her. She's who she is.
Yeah.
But the daughter is misinterpreting every line she says. So that's why Elizabeth Banks had the job of trying to say these lines in a way that the viewer would, be on Anna's side. I hope you finished your tea because you need to go grab another one. And if you just went number one, time to go number two because we're going to spoil this one. So put the headphones down. All right. So in the original,
They took one of the most incredible aspects of the original, the fact that the stepmother was not real.
right, she had been in this movie the whole time, and you find out that not only the stepmom, but the
Yeah.
sister as well,
Yeah.
were all inside her head, and she had developed split personalities.
And they got rid of the whole that aspect of the stepmother in the which it was in the original and was one of the best parts.
Right.
The reason it was so uncomfortable, the reason certain aspects of the movie were so disturbing.
There is a great scene in the original where they're at dinner. It's the
Oh
father,
God,
the
yeah,
stepmom, and then the stepmom's brother and his wife. And she goes on for 10 minutes. This actress is really good in this
yeah.
scene.
Talking
Um,
about stuff that they did together and
as
making and like
kids,
telling these wild stories, and they're
right.
just like scared
And they're
watching.
just quiet and staring at her, right? And she goes, "What's wrong? Don't you remember this stuff?" And the brother's like, which I'm gonna put aside here. This brother's an asshole because he knows that this daughter has just gotten out of a mental institution, and he goes, "No, I don't remember any of that." Why would you say that to a girl that's crazy? Wouldn't you just smile and nod and go, "Oh yeah, I sure do"?
Some people don't know how to talk to the ill, to the mentally ill
Right.
at
Well, that
all.
makes sense, and he's an asshole for doing it. But anyway, she goes, "Don't you remember?" And he goes, "No." And she goes, "Why? Are you crazy?" And that is just awesome right there
Oh,
because
don't
we
forget
all
that
know that
thing
she's
under the was it under the table, under the fridge?
yeah, the it was under a cabinet. Yeah, the brother's wife has a seizure and falls down, and then the stepmom sees the ghost under the
Yeah.
cabinet, but it's not the stepmom, it's the daughter. It's really confusing. You definitely
Yeah.
have to watch it once or more than once to
Yeah.
see where all of it fits in.
The fact that she thinks she's her stepmother through half of it. Oh, there's a bit where you're introduced to the stepmother character coming out of the shadows, and she moves so unnaturally.
I bet they rolled her in. They also, at one point, they give you a clue that this is all in her head because they're all on their periods at the same time.
Yeah, there are clues all throughout it, really.
It was great. But in the American remake, the stepmom is really the stepmom, and she is trying to be nice to the daughter, but every line she says, of course, has a meaning that might be that she's crazy. But Anna, the daughter, the main character, thinks that the stepmom is her roommate from
Yeah.
the asylum. So she thinks she murdered 3 children, and that's why there's these 3 ghosts throughout the movie. That was not in the original. So in the remake,
Uh,
there's these 3 children ghosts. Where did that come from? The children ghost thing that we just have to have in every movie now.
I have no idea. I think people. I think it started with that awful remake of The Haunting, but we're not talking about that movie right now.
I liked that.
I read the book and I saw the original movie, and it was upsetting because they could have just come up with a different title and not claimed it was a remake.
Oh, it was a 63 and then again in 1999, I see.
They
It
took a
always reminded me
psychological
of,
story,
hmm,
and then they made it into this weird ghost story. And it
hmm.
was just the way they changed the story was just massively disappointing.
So it's loosely based on the movie and the novel.
The house was born bad. That's pretty much all they carried from it, except for maybe the main character had the same name, Eleanor. And there was a lesbian.
There was a lesbian in it?
Catherine Zeta Jones character?
Was she a lesbian?
Yes.
Oh, I don't remember her saying, I'm a lesbian.
She never does, but it's.
You know what? I think I read the book too, actually.
Yeah.
Isn't there a scene at one point where they're in the room and they're holding hands because they're scared and it's dark and then the lights come on and she's
Yeah.
not actually holding her hands? I loved that book.
Yeah, it's a great book. I just don't think the remake of the movie was done very well.
It always reminds me of Rose Red. Remember that movie that was on TV?
Rose Red. Tale of Two Sisters, back on top.
Sorry.
I didn't understand the choices they made in this remake. I mean, I understand that they were trying to be original with it, but they tried to be so original that it didn't even.
Well, if you remember, here's how the main character's mental psychosis starts. She hates the stepmom because she catches her and the father having sex, and the mom is sick and dying. So the stepmom is a stay-at-home nurse, and that's how the father and her fall in love while the father's, desperately crying over his dying wife. And this is the same in both versions. But the psychosis starts because the um, sick mother kills herself in the little sister's closet in
Yeah.
the wardrobe, and the wardrobe falls on the little sister when she finds the body, and it crushes her, and she suffocates and dies. But the stepmom sees this, and she freaks out, runs to get help. But then the main character says, "Stay out of our lives. I hate you. We all hate you. Go away. Die." So the stepmom goes, "Okay, this is wrong on the stepmom's part. Yes, I don't know about the Korean version, but this is wrong. Yes, but I understand why she decided. Fine, I'll stay out of your lives." She tells the girl, "You're gonna regret saying this," and she goes, "I'm not gonna regret anything," and she leaves. And then the girl suffocates and dies. So yes, the stepmom should have saved her. She could have saved her, and she would have saved her had the main character not been a total bitch to her mom.
Well, yes, but you remember she is a teenager, and teenagers will say shit to stepmothers.
Yes,
Especially
that's
after
why
recent divorces between their parents.
I know, and that's why I'm saying I've been lucky and I've had really good step parents who I've liked and I've respected, and
Well,
we've all
except for
been
the fact that they
close.
made you clean the chimney every day and cook dinner and build them dresses, and then when you tried to go to the ball, they tore yours up.
Yes, but luckily one of them cut her heel off, one of them cut their toes off, and I had the crows peck their eyes out. So anyway, in the American version, that doesn't happen. Instead, they've put the mom out in this little boathouse at the very back of the house where she's dying.
I think
And
the
every
whole
day,
point of this movie was that so that the cast and crew could hang out at a fucking boathouse.
yeah, and it filmed in Canada, by the way. It was a very
Yeah.
pretty location.
It's the same reason people do movies set in Hawaii.
Yeah, that made like 51st States. That could have been anywhere, but it was in.
Yeah, but 51st Dates just happened to be a great movie with a
I'm
really
just
good
saying,
couple, on-screen couple. Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore are magic together on screen.
Oh no, I love that movie. I've seen it probably 50 times on 51st Dates, okay? I love that movie. I'm just saying it's in the American version.
In the end, she realized she was crazy, but she
No, no,
actually
no, no. What did they change in the American version?
she killed her stepmother.
So the reason she's crazy, since Madeline doesn't know what I'm talking about, is because she catches the stepmom and father having sex, and so she decides to burn the house down.
Yeah.
So she goes to the boathouse where they have a gasoline tank because, okay, I guess for the boat, so I guess it does make sense. And she fills up a container so that she can go pour gasoline on the house and light it on fire. But her sister, drunk, interrupts her, so she spills some. No, she leaves the faucet on, so it's leaking. And then the sister, when she slams the door shut, knocks the candle down. And as they're both leaving the boathouse, the mom goes, "Honey, I'm dying. Can you come visit me?" And so the little sister goes to visit her, and then the house blows up and they both die.
Yeah.
So that causes her to go crazy. So you can already see where the difference is, and that ruins the whole stepmom character.
Dynamic.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know why they would change that.
They were just trying to be original with it. They probably assumed that if you were seeing this movie, you had seen the original, they were trying to give you something new. That's what I got from it because this movie had been out a little bit longer. The original had been out a little bit longer, and it had several years to gather an audience.
And it had an audience in me and you.
Yes, unfortunately. But I don't know. Going into this, I just knew it was going to be a bad movie.
I was so hopeful.
I know you were, and you were mad at me when we were going in because you were like, "You're just assuming it's going to be bad, but you're always negative about all movies. I think this is going to be a good movie. It's got to be a good movie." And then after we watched it, you were like, "You wanted this to be a bad movie."
You wanted this to be a bad movie.
You like blamed it on me.
It's your fault. Yeah. I just don't understand why they ruined such a good movie.
You know what? That's just sometimes how it goes with remakes of movies, because sometimes a remake is just made to be a remake and profit, and not because they liked the story and they thought they could take that and do something interesting with it.
But you remember how the stepmom died in the Korean version, right?
Yeah, the ghost came and killed her.
Right. And now how did she die in the... This is what you were saying a minute ago. How did she die in the American version?
Anna killed her.
Right. It was just like... What?
And wasn't it revealed that Anna had already known she was crazy?
I kind of suspected that. I was actually watching a little bit of it while you were at work, and right at the end, the cop asked the father, "Why did she make up that story about the nanny that killed those kids?" And the father looks at his daughter as she's being pulled away in the police car, and the girl's just like staring at him, slightly smiling.
Yeah.
And if you're really crazy at this point, why would you be doing that? Like, wouldn't you be going like, "Father, why am I leaving again?
Yeah,
What's happening?"
she just been planning this the whole time. Is what I
don't know if she was planning it all the whole time, but after she realized she was crazy, she was like, "You know what? I'm okay with this.
Yeah.
I'm freaking bonkers, you know?"
Yeah. On the one hand, her hair looked fantastic.
Whose?
Anna's.
Oh, Emily Browning?
Yeah, her hair looked great.
She's a beautiful girl. She was
she's gorgeous.
Lots and lots of stuff.
Oh yeah, I know. She's been in a lot of stuff.
Not Kick-Ass. Sucker Punch. She was in Sucker Punch. She was in a series of unfortunate events.
Oh yeah, she was, wasn't she?
Yeah. The sister who you hate because you said she was bitchy. She's been in American Pie, John Tucker Must Die. She was in Aquamarine. That's how I know her. Of course, that's how I know her.
She was in The Grudge too.
Yes, she was. She was in the second one, and I don't know, was she in? No, she was just in the second one. Yeah, and I felt so bad for her character in the second one too. And we all know Elizabeth Banks. I've just started to get into her and like her.
I've always liked her smile.
Oh, she's a beautiful, beautiful woman.
Getting back on topic, I'm gonna give honorable mention to Shudder. The remake sucked.
Oh, I didn't even see Shudder.
Yeah. And
was that the camera movie you were talking about earlier?
Yeah. And also I'd like to mention...
Oh, it was a Thai horror film.
Yeah. I'd also like to mention an Asian movie that's really good from the 2006, and I'm sure we will remake it if we haven't already, called Recycle. And I loved that film. I loved it.
Did I see that movie?
It's the movie with the writer who tries to write this book, and then she gets sucked into the world of the characters she created and abandoned.
Oh, this looks so familiar. We had to have seen this. I don't remember anything about it.
I felt like Recycle was a really, really good movie, but it depends on how you interpret the story. Some people really resent the story because of the message maybe they may see in the idea of abortion, but I thought it was a great movie.
I do remember watching this with you. Yeah, this was a pretty good movie. I don't remember too much about it, but watching the trailer now, I'm like, oh man, I want to see this.
Yeah, it was very much like The Wizard of Oz or Alice in Wonderland even. The journey this character takes.
Oh, another movie we have to at least make a small shout out to, One Missed Call.
One Missed Call, that's another
Great Japanese version, but a not so good American version. There's been a lot. Not One Miss Call. We just talked about that one. What's the other one called with Kristen Bell? We love Kristen Bell. Pulse.
Pulse.
Cairo is
Ooh,
the original.
Pulse.
Here's one that I would wish they would remake. Suicide Club. Have you seen that one?
I have not seen Suicide Club.
It wasn't very good, and that's why I want us to remake it because I think we're probably not going to be able to, but I think we'd be able to make it into something really, really good.
Yeah.
But as long as the trend keeps going on, it won't happen. But yeah, that was a really good one.
I've heard they might be remaking The Audition.
I have not seen The Audition because you and our other roommate Audra had said that it was awful.
It's horrible. And now when I say awful, I don't mean awful as in bad movie. I mean awful as in really sick.
Gory?
It's torture porn. That's what it is.
Ah.
And I mean, for the people out there who love torture porn, good for you. It's a modern classic of torture porn. But personally, I don't want to spend 60 to 90 minutes watching someone be hacked to pieces or tortured. It's
Well,
not
I'm
my
glad I
gig.
didn't see that movie.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is all the movies that we wanted to talk about.
Yeah. How was your Halloween?
I worked
Ah,
overnight at my hotel.
I worked the day shift, but yeah.
Yeah, happy Halloween, everybody. I know it's a week or so late, but I hope it was fun and safe and y'all got lots of candy.
Yeah, I know I didn't.
Yeah, I didn't either. Definitely check out Suicide Circle, Madeline. We can talk about it in a future Asian horror film. I want to check out some of these Southeast Asian horror movies.
Okay.
That seems cool.
I will check out Suicide Circle if you promise me you will see hair extensions.
Okay, I'll check out that. You check out Suicide Circle. That'll be our next two Japanese.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, it was super fun finally joining this podcast. I look forward to coming back in a future Asian-focused episode. Nudge, nudge.
Say no more.
Chopsticks, sushi.
I'd also like to mention the blog, hallow-holic.wordpress.com or hallow-holic.blogspot.com.
Check them out. And don't forget to follow our Twitter at Hallow-Holics. Who's there?
Jazlaan, that wasn't me.
What?